Hi there, and welcome to this episode of the Guns Magazine podcast. I'm your host and the editor of Guns Magazine, Brent T. Well, after being out of the game for a number of years, I'm going to get back into turkey hunting. And when I was talking to my friends about that, they all said, you need to call Ken Byers. Ken Byers is a well-known outdoor writer. He's an author, a speaker, and he's a turkey guide. He's guided a lot of the folks you would know in the outdoor industry, and he's very highly regarded as one of the go-to guides in the business. So I called up Ken. He's at a turkey hunt in South Dakota right at the moment, and we talked turkey. I discovered that avid turkey hunters all have that same madness, and we all get that gleam in our eye, and we had a great time talking. So we're going to talk about why we enjoy turkey hunting, how you can get involved in it, and most importantly, the guns and ammo that you need to be carrying. So right now, let's talk turkey with Ken Byers. Well, good afternoon, Ken.
You bet. Thanks for having me, Brent.
Well, thanks for joining us. We were connected through a mutual friend of ours, and I actually asked him to talk, and he said, no, I got a guy that actually knows what he's talking about. So you come highly recommended. But you are well known in the industry. I would say that you're one of the probably the best known turkey guys in the industry. You've worked with everybody, a lot of guys I know. You've appeared on a lot of different media outlets. And today you're on the Guns Magazine podcast. So we certainly appreciate that.
Well, thanks for having me.
Well, for folks that don't know, tell a little bit about Ken Byers and some of your background and why we should listen to what you got to say about turkey hunting.
Yeah, well, I, as a young boy, lived on a hobby farm, 10-acre farm in Lapeer, Michigan, grew up trapping, hunting, fishing, just doing the things that we love to do outdoors, and was just so blessed and fortunate to make a living in the outdoor industry. So I worked, my first job was a trap boy at Williams Gun Club, who was Williams Gun Sight Company. And as I graduated from high school, did a little college, and then took a job there at Williams Gun Sight, worked there for 10 years, got to the point where I was managing their sporting goods store. And then the NRA publications got a hold of me. So then I went to work for representing advertising in the NRA magazines, American Rifleman, American Hunter, for 10 years, 12 years to be exact, and then started my own company, Byers Media. And since then, it's just been an array of meeting great people, doing a lot of really cool things, fun things with just tremendous people in the industry and beyond, and mentoring young shooters, hunters, and being involved in kind of like folks. I did some stuff with single parent children, getting into archery and some shooting disciplines. And that's kind of been my drive through life. Now I'm going to hit 60, so no more green bananas for me, but we still get after it. We're out in South Dakota right now in our annual turkey hunt that we've been doing for 26 years. We just, even as early as yesterday, I think we shot 5 turkeys and just did, just had a great time. And that's what we've been doing and been a part of. And so to say I'm an expert, I think I've been around, I'm getting a little bit long in the tooth, Brent. And, but the passion, the drive to get after it is just, a couple of the hunters who had been with me before, we just looked at each other, and these are brand names from big, we'd all be familiar with. And today I'm with the owner of Elps turkey packs and turkey vests and all of that great company. Dennis Bruni, the owner, he and I've hunted probably 6 years in a row. And so he tagged out yesterday on just a great, memorable hunt. And that's what makes our world go round. And 4 days ago, it was a mentor hunt with Dennis, because he's very involved in that, with a young Native American boy that was on the reservation that we're hunting. And so we took him out on his first hunt, and he killed his first turkey. And those are the things that we just like to do. So to wrap it up, about me, is I've represented Bugle Magazine with RMEF. That's what I do today, so to speak, and then some other great titles. But one of the things I'm really excited about is the YouTube channel we started about 4 years ago, Brent. And it's Hooked Hunting, and it's all about getting more people in the field.
Excellent. And we'll talk about that again before we go. Well, it's funny, when I was doing my research, I knew your name the second it was brought up, and I get to thinking that of all the events I've done over the years, I'm sure we've run into each other, and that may be the case, but I cannot think of when we did. But it's funny, when I was looking you up so I could talk intelligently. We know everybody mutually, but I don't think we've ever gotten in the same hunting camp at the same time. But it's kind of wild. You've worked with just about everybody in the industry at some point.
Yeah. Well, it's just, again, it's such a blessing to be able to make a living in a business, or just in a area of the outdoors and the passion that somehow God gave me as a young boy, and my father, and just that type of thing. So, I don't know if we've ever shaken hands, but I'm sure we've been in the same room multiple times.
Well, after this, we'll have to make sure we move in the same circles at some point. So, I'm going to tell my story a little bit. I used to be a very avid turkey hunter back in the old days. We didn't use flintlocks, but we're about the same age, and so I used to do that a lot. And then, let's say 5-6 years ago, my knee started bothering me, and it got to the point where folks that follow the podcast know well that I ended up having to get a brand new left knee. And now we're approaching the 2-year anniversary, and it's just a wonderful thing. I can do all the stuff I used to, and it had got to the point I couldn't go maybe 100 yards. Just the pain was too bad. So anyway, now that we're almost two years out, I was kind of looking around at things that I want to accomplish this year. And it suddenly occurred to me that, my turkey vest and my calls and all that are sitting in the storage with dust all over them. And I said, there's no reason that I shouldn't get back into it. So when I was talking to folks, and I was talking to my friend Mark, he goes, you really need to talk to Ken Byers, because, the technology has certainly changed. The concept of chasing turkey doesn't change, but all the technology around it does. But before we even get into that, what is it? I can answer this myself, and every turkey hunter can, but for you, why do we put so much effort and have so much passion and enjoyment out of chasing an animal that has a thumb or a brain about the size of my thumbnail?
Yeah, well, great question. And I can sum it up in just one small sentence, is they talk back. You are getting into their world, trying to mimic their calls and their communications and their vocalizations, and interfere, and then try to persuade them that you're one of them. And I get to do a lot of elk hunting. Archery elk hunting is probably, if you took all hunting away, that would be one that would just be at the top tier of my interest, and just the challenge that comes with it. And so in the springtime, that's our miniature elk is turkey. So we've got to have like 4 days of turkey hunting where the weather was good. Today we're shut down from rain and wind, but we've shot, I think, 12 turkeys in those days, and we've called them in, we've decoyed them in. And it's just unreal for me to just sit there. I can't get over that excitement of talking turkey. And most of the time, we're trying to imitate a hen, and you're constantly evaluating the situation. And so to sum it up, is just that you're communicating with an animal. Waterfowl hunting would be somewhat the same for sure. And then elk hunting and, rattling and grunting deer. But turkey is just it's just a whole nother level, because you don't know if you're going to call in the tom. It might be the lead hen that leads the parade to you and give you an opportunity to harvest a turkey. But the vocalization is what makes it work for me. Yeah.
And, I got to say that turkey hunting, it is truly a fine madness almost, because it's one of those things once you get into it, you get into it so intensively, and it's not an easy thing to do, especially, most places you're getting up at 3 a.m. or sometimes earlier to make sure you're in the field, well before sunrise so you can get set up. But it's just all of it that goes around, like you said, trying to convince the wily old Tom that is extremely suspicious that you are a seductive hen, ready to meet up with him. But it's all the other stuff. This is truly probably of all the year round. This is one of my favorite times of year. Even when the turkey aren't coming in or they're not even gobbling, just sitting there in the woods and seeing the woods come alive, both for that day and for the year. And there's so much. And like I said, it turns into a fine madness because I'm sure you know better than I that about 2 weeks into season and you've been hitting it hard and you realize you're a little sleep deprived. You're pretty tired. You're worn out, but there's no place you would rather be. It truly drives you crazy in a good way.
Oh man, I don't know how many times through the years is we look at each other and say, we got to change something up, maybe some poison corn or something. That's all tongue in cheek, of course, but you're exactly right. Now, and I got out here and started hunting in South Dakota. We were in another setup, but it was, I think we started hunting on the 9th of April and we haven't missed a day. So right now I'm yearning for that midday nap.
Oh, and it's a wonderful thing when you can, but
right. That's exactly right.
For folks that haven't hunted turkey, and I remember this, I always heard how challenging it was, but the thing that makes it so challenging is they're not all that smart, even though some of them act like they've got a PhD, but the key is they are just incredibly suspicious of anything out of place.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Back several years ago, I mean, this would go back 25 years ago, Brent. I was hunting with just an absolute. He owned a game call company, so this guy just knew everything, and I gleaned as much as I could from him. And he said, "Now, Ken, if anything," and he was from Arkansas, down there where there's some pretty tough turkey hunting, a lot of hunting pressure down on the public lands. And he said, if there's anything you take away from hunting with me this week is remember this: when you make a sound, that turkey can hear that. He may not respond, but he literally can come and pee on your boot. I mean, don't think for a second that when he hears you yelp and he may gobble from way off, and then all of a sudden you think you got to do this or do that. Understand that they're so sharp and in tune with when they hear a noise, they can literally come to that square foot without you making another sound. And I've always remembered that. So when you make a call, and let's just say you hear a gobble far off and you go, okay, now I'm going to be aggressive and make a move to get closer to either make it easier for him to come to you and or to maybe get past could be a natural barrier like a creek or water or something. And it's like, be cautious because he's thinking you're back where you were. And if you somehow get a little bit out of place, you could spook the turkey. So.
Yep. Well, for folks that haven't done it, I mean, this is one of those things that you can go an entire lifetime and you're not going to learn all the tricks, but kind of walk through a stereotypical morning. The weather's nice. It's been stable. You've got a good setup. You've seen some birds. The alarm just went off at 3 a.m. So walk us through where you're going from there.
Yeah, I mean, you get up, get yourself a cup of coffee, you wait, whether you have a pastry or like here, we're whipping out fried potatoes or bacon and eggs and potato. We had blueberry pancakes this morning, but
wow.
Get yourself mentally prepared. Get whatever you do, don't cut yourself short on time. Be that guy that's 20 minutes early whenever possible, just so you're not rushing and you give yourself a little buffer so that's easy not to forget your ammo, forget your shotgun, forget your decoys, whatever that might be. But for us, typically, we get up, we get in the rigs, we try to get to our spot. Now, we may not know where the roosting tree is. Now, obviously, that is, if you can pattern turkeys, if you can do a little preseason scouting, that's to your benefit, for sure. If you got that in your hip pocket, that could mean all the marbles for success that given day. But it may be you've got a busy lifestyle, you're raising a family, and you just get out right on opening day. And so you go to where you know that there's turkeys there from the past or whatever may have happened. So you get there. Jump out of the rig. You kind of have a plan where you might want to initially set up from maybe previous hunts or whatever. But get out of the rig. You might want to owl hoot. Don't crow call until daylight when crows are making noise, but owl hoot, do something where you might get a shot gobble or you get a gobble, then go from there. So I don't hit the panic button. Don't think that you got to have everything in place before the break of dawn. Hear that first gobble and then make your adjustments then. And look at be aware of your topography, be aware of the lay of the land. So, I think personally from hunting the different species, I think the Eastern turkey is the smartest. I just do. Yep. For whatever reason, I think that maybe it's the hunting pressure or whatever that might be in the region that they are. But I just think that if there's a turkey species going to walk around with a PhD in their pocket, it's going to be the Eastern turkey. So make sure, not so much the sound of you walking, because deer are walking, there's cattle around in some places, but don't let them see your silhouette. Don't let them be aware of your presence as you set up. But then get set up, be thinking about where their travel route. When they hit the ground, they're wanting to feed. They've been up in that tree all night long. Now they want to have some groceries. So try to think about where their travel route, and if you can make it easier for them to come in the direction of your calling due to their just natural habit and moving, way better. That puts advantage to you. So get out there early, give yourself a little time for buffer, and then just start listening and be prepared to set up rather quickly without them being aware of your presence.
So calling, that's a huge issue. And I've been doing it, like I said, for, 30 years probably, and I still don't think I'm very good at it. What are some of the ways that folks can get better at it?
Well, practice. It may drive your spouse crazy. It may drive your kids crazy, but don't, get off in your private space or whatever and practice. But I'll encourage any newbie to the game of turkey hunt. The biggest widow maker in the business is a box call. Just don't get fancy. Don't think that you got to be, blowing on a diaphragm call or tweaking a slate call, or just get a box call, be simple, and make turkey sounds. Then once you get into that point, you could kill a whole bunch of turkeys before you ever start thinking the putting and the purring and the cutting and all these other types of sounds that they'll make. But for me, man, even today, I'm going to start out with a box call and just do it like that. Just a simple 5 to 7 yelp pattern, just yelp, 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 yelp. And if there's a turkey in the neighborhood that wants to talk back, in or Tom, they're going to they'll respond to that. You can get, to your point, what calls, because you can do the tree talk when the hen first wakes up, and the toms, he may be already gobbled off a couple times to an owl or just waking up in the morning, and then the hen just does a sweet little tree talk of yelp, 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 and you just kind of mimic that. And then before she flies down, a lot of times they do some cutting where they're and then they pitch down. Well, you can do all that, and it's when you're in the woods, you're listening to that turkey, and I just say mimic the real thing to your best of capability, but don't overthink it. Get a nice solid box call. We happen to be using Rocky Mountain Hunting calls out of Idaho. Just great people, great calls, and it just works.
Well, I'm going to interrupt you there. That one of the biggest learning experiences I had early on in my career. First of all, when you said, go somewhere where you can practice, I was a police officer and I retired, and we were all about the same age. We all got into hunting, and it would drive everybody crazy there. We would get into late winter and we'd start working on our calls, and guys would pull up in a parking lot talking to each other, and they'd try out a Yelp, or they try out their newest slate. And, people are like, what is wrong with you people? I think we had a sign at one point, no turkey calls in the police station, because that might've happened. But what was funny, I thought, okay, I think I'm not great at it, but I can do it. So I got to that point. Probably the most dangerous point of any skill is when you think you know what you're doing and you don't. And I remember very clearly, it was a beautiful spring morning. I was out hunting by myself on a great woods. We had huge woods. And so I sat down and I'd heard this turkey gobble and I started hearing some yelps and just a bunch of calls. And I thought, that's not okay. That's a hen. That's not a hen. I think there's another guy in there hunting. And I was absolutely convinced to the point I was kind of like, yeah, I'll shock him when he moves into that clearing and I'll, clear my throat or something. And I'll be darned, it was a turkey,
Yeah.
and I was absolutely convinced it was a guy doing a really bad turkey call. So I realized, and, then the old timers told me later, no, they don't all sound like those recordings. Some of them have a bad throat, So
no, you're
like
absolutely right, Brent. I got to hear that yesterday. I was hearing a hen talk back, and I'm like, "Boy, that's a bad sounding yelp." And of course, I'm looking at the flock, watching her talk back. But and that's kind of the fun thing about South Dakota is you don't have the big timbers that we face back in, like where you hunt and where I hunt in Michigan and so forth, which is always fun when you got a little more visual of the animal's response. But don't think that you got to sound perfect. Do not make that mistake. And that, there's a lot of great callers out there that make me look like I'm not even in the game, which is fine. Because I kind of think like, as long as we're successful in the field and try to go out every time to learn something and learn a new sound or try to improve on however you go about getting after them, and then talk to the people who, man, I've sat down. Last year I got to sit down with a guy and we're in the turkey field and I'm listening to him on his call, Brent. And I'm like, holy mackerel, you talk about next level. He's making tunes and sounds out of that's just like magic. And there was a dude several years ago I got to hunt with, and he's Mike Miller, the turkey killer. And I'm not kidding you now. And I knew why. Once I heard him call, it was unbelievable what sounds he was making as a hen yelp and all of the various other sounds. But again, to go back to the guys who are just getting into it, man, don't overthink it, because a simple go in and pick up a $25, $35 box call and you'll ring up your turkey, easy enough.
Exactly. And moving on to the gun thing now, since we're the Guns Magazine podcast.
Sure.
Looking at, doing my review, my updating, the thing that has really changed since I was an active turkey hunter versus now is the loads. I mean, the guns are pretty much the same. A lot of guys still use a single shot. A lot of guys use pumps. There are some guys using semi-autos, but it's not so much the gun per se that has changed. It is the loads. And, now I talk to guys that are using 410s and 28s. And back when I was actively hunting, basically it's like we were shooting goose. We needed a 10 gauge with a super choke on it and probably throwing, 4 ounces of number 2 shot. And even then you tried to make sure that, you could smell the acorns on his breath. And now, especially with tungsten shot and all that, it's changed. Guys are taking longer shots, but they're using smaller pellets, using smaller gauge or caliber of shotguns. So what are you seeing now? You're in the field all the time. What is kind of the state of the art of turkey guns?
Yeah. Well, it's so interesting, Brent. You're absolutely right. You talk about 10 years ago to today. It's amazing what's in the pockets of the avid turkey hunter for ammunition. I mean, yesterday we had a fella in here from Fiocchi Ammunition with all the new loads and the tungsten. And then tomorrow we'll have the guys from Federal Ammunition in camp. Same sort of thing. And guess, they're running 28 gauges this year. Mm. And 3 years ago, they came into camp and they're like, we want to shoot 410 at 40 yards. That was their goal. Yeah. 410 at 40 yards. And
that's
I'm
crazy
like,
talk.
Are you kidding me? Yeah, are you kidding me? Coffee shops 20 years ago, he'd be laughed out of the place. Yeah. Not only that, to your point on shot size, they're running 9 shot.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me right now? Because if you're not running 4 or 5, you might as well take up knitting years ago. So that has changed tremendously. The interesting part with these manufacturers and the material that they're using in these loads is they all want ethical kills. Mm-hmm. That bottom line, they don't want to see an animal suffer. So when it's time to shoot a turkey, they want that turkey, whether it's jelly headed or but they want it on the ground and not suffering. So for us, we tested a lot of turkey loads through this trend, if you will, or this movement to smaller gauges and finer shot. And then some of the ammunition, Brent, that has multiple different size shots with each load.
Yeah.
And we've done some of the turkey hunting out west here where it's very, very open. So we know how to use a decoy. Some call it reaping, some call it fanning, but where if you're on a piece of property and there's no other hunters, where it could be a dangerous situation for the hunter. So it gets a little bit of a bad, I don't want to say a bad name, but it's like some people like it and some people don't like it. But my point is, some of those turkeys, it's a very close shot, Brent. Mm-hmm. So you're not worried about stretching it out to a 50 or beyond. You want a little bit of a pattern, and you want those multi pellets, and you might even be shooting a modified choke, which you never thought of that.
Yeah,
in the past. So the new technology, the new loads, the new guns. What I like about some of the guns now too is you're not having to run around with a 32-inch barrel or a 30-inch barrel to get the job done at the extended ranges needed. So I got to see a turkey 20 gauge TSS tungsten shot. I don't know if they were 7.5s or 9s, but at 65 yards, that turkey hit the dirt. One boom, and it was on the ground. And his pattern was the size of just over a basketball.
Okay.
At that kind of yardage. So the shorter barrel on some of the shotguns with these loads makes the gun much lighter to carry and much more handier in the field. And so for me, I like to see where it's going. And I also like to see that your smaller kids getting into it's not getting beat up by a 12 gauge and they're flinching, or some of the heavy turkey loads of, back in the years that you and I cut our teeth in the woods.
Yeah. When you were saying that, I can remember some of those 3.5 or 3-inch loads, and it's like that's about like shooting a slug. That's
yeah.
And a 65-yard shot. There was guys claiming them, but you never saw them. And I mean, it's amazing to me that they can do that now, and like you said, and get good, ethical, clean kills. Because, we've all got that one buddy that takes some shots that, don't work out. And it's just, and it's just an awful feeling. So, it's cool. It'd be interesting to see if there was some way you could do it, if the kill percentage has gone up since the loads have improved so much.
Yeah, that would be interesting to find. But because I knew that this was going to be an extended shot just through the lay of the land, and we were on a bluff, and it was going to be that. And so I had another hunter with me, an outdoor writer. And I said, hey, slide up here and be a backup. And he had a 12 gauge and TSS load as well. But that 20 gauge put the hammer down. That's so amazing. No backup was required. But to your point, even I'm trying to adjust to those longer shots because I'm always thinking 30 and in.
Exactly.
Type of thing. But these guys, we witnessed last year's camp, there was a shot that literally was over 75 yards, and it dropped that turkey like a hammer. And the guy knew it. He'd been testing it. And there's a brand out there, Apex Ammo, that I read the package, and it's like, and of course, one shell, Brent, you got to put it in layaway.
Exactly.
So So I'm looking at this ammo, and it's like, that's a 2-ounce load of 12 gauge 3-inch mag, and we're shooting a ounce and 5/8 and ounce and 3/8. And I remember when the load came out, ounce and 7/8, it just tear your shoulder off. And when I saw that 2 ounces, I'm like, whoa, this is legit.
Yeah. It's funny. I was looking at their website, and I'm sort of familiar with them, but I'm not. So I was looking and, kind of just doing my due diligence. And when I saw the prices, I thought, is that for a case? No, that's for a box. Wow. Okay. But they're good stuff though. So
right. Oh, I know. it's a little bit shocking, but people are lining up to buy it because of what it does.
Yeah. One other thing that has changed 180 degrees is optics, especially red dots, things like that. You used to see occasionally you'd see some fiber optic front sights, things like that. But I know a lot of guys do use red dots now. Are you seeing much of it?
Oh man, it's almost like when we're deer hunting out in the West now, when you see a rifle without a suppressor. It's weird, Brent.
Yeah.
Like this, I mean, right now, just a few feet from me is the fella from Burris, Jordan, just a great guy. And he's got that fast fire four that's just rocking it, hardly weighs anything. And there's other brands out there that pretty much mimic that, but you're right. They're super popular because the sight acquisition is unbelievable. Yeah. And you can throw a 6'4" dude on there or a 5'2" lady and grab the same shotgun and look down that barrel and see that red dot or whatever you're using for the reticle, if you will, and put it on the turkey's head, squeeze it, and he's just as dead as, you're not lining up beads, you're not looking down a vent rib, or you're not doing other things that's out there. It's quick and fast and no weight to the gun. Yeah.
Well, I had rifle sights on my my turkey gun at the time, and it seems so obvious when you're out on the range doing patterning, and then as the sun's just coming up, and there's a little low-lying mist, and the gobbler comes in and sticks his head up. It's like, okay, I see a big blob out there, but where are my sights? So I'm kind of looking forward to getting a red dot. And you made a good point. I've got some Burris gear, courtesy probably of your client there, and we may see that on my shotgun. So.
Yeah. I can't say enough, because here's what happened. I was out hunting just 2 days ago, and I'm not ready to fill my tags kind of thing. I'm trying to help the other folks, and so he had one more turkey to kill. This fella I was with, and there was 4 big gobblers that came in. So he's got his shotgun all dialed in with the Burris. Boom, his turkey goes down. He's tagged out. He hands me the gun, and so I pull up, boom, boom, and now I'm tagged out. So we tripled, and one longbeard runs away with all the hens. He says, "Man, you did me a favor."
Wow, that's funny. Yeah, that is very funny.
So to that red dot deal, I mean, it's just so flexible, and it just takes away so much of the issues that come with all the excitement of the turkey coming in, and you're trying to line up a front sight and a rear sight. No, you just put the red dot where you need it to happen.
Yeah. Well, Ken, I got to say, I just looked down at our time, and it's like, we've been talking a while. That shocked me. That's always, I think, a good interview is when I lose track of time. And, obviously I've still got that bug to get out and shoot turkey. But let's talk a little bit about your YouTube channel, and tell us about that.
Yeah. So Hooked Hunting, we literally was out on our turkey camp 4 years ago. And a fella, great guy, Connor Olstead, he runs Olstead Media, does the filmmaking. And he's like, "Ken," he said, "we're out here enjoying it with some of the greatest brands in the marketplace. We just need to start filming it, and we need to get it out for people. Everybody has a good time." So we launched Hooked Hunting. So it's a lot of Western big game. We elk, we deer, archery, muzzleloader, rifle, and turkey hunting in the spring. Dabbled in with a little bit of fishing. And we've just had a great time with a lot of great people. And I would just encourage people, if you'd be so kind to check us out and see what we're all about. It's very family oriented, family friendly, and we just love the outdoors.
Cool. And what's the name of the channel again?
It's Hooked Hunting, all one word, Hooked Hunting.
Excellent.
Yeah, just like this hat.
Excellent. Well, Ken Byers, great stuff. I've got a million more questions, but I think we'll have to draw the curtain on this. But good luck tomorrow on your hunt, and here in a couple of days, hopefully I'll be getting out. But we'll touch base after season and hear some stories from the turkey field. But thanks for joining us here on the Guns Magazine podcast.
Thanks, Brent. It was my pleasure.
Well, it was great talking to Ken Byers about turkey hunting, and I think we both got that gleam in our eye when we started talking about one of our favorite subjects. Well, before we go, I would like to ask you, please stop by gunsmagazine.com and americanhandgunner.com. And if you like what we do here, you can sign up for our newsletters. There's one almost every day of the week, and you can get all the good stuff, including the Guns Magazine podcast, delivered right to your email inbox. That's gunsmagazine.com and americanhandgunner.com. Also, we have a sister publication, americancop.com. That's for the prepared American. You don't have to be a law enforcement officer. It's just folks that want to be ready for whatever life throws at you. So, americancop.com, americanhandgunner.com, and gunsmagazine.com. Well, that's it for this episode of the Guns Magazine podcast. On behalf of everybody who works here at those magazines and FMG Publications, I'm Guns Magazine editor Brent T, reminding you yet again, now get out there and get shooting.